Judge Andrew Napolitano.
The judge.
Yep. If you could have him as VP, Attorney General, or Chief Justice on the Supreme Court, what would you?
All three, right?
Yeah.
So I was actually joking around with the judge about this when I was running, because he knows I'm very audacious. So he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Judge, nobody's going to do this. If I don't do this, we're going to have Gary, or we're going to have somebody who's not one of us, pretending to the throne. I got to do this." And I go, "But don't you want to be on the Supreme Court?" No, I go, "Don't you want to be Attorney General?" And he's like, "No, I don't want to be Attorney General. I want to be on the Supreme Court." And I go, "Well, don't you want to end the war on drugs, Judge? Don't you want to preside over the end of the war on drugs directly?" And he's like, "You just want to get high with your friends." I don't know, maybe, I don't know. But Judge, the judge would be a fantastic Attorney General or Supreme Court pick. He'd probably be tough to confirm because he's Fox, and the Senate Democrats are going to beat him up on that kind of stuff. But yeah, he'd make a fine pick. You know who else I'm looking at? You guys need to check him out. He's a fantastic legal scholar, Libertarian, from Georgetown University. His name's Randy Barnett. He wrote a lot of the Chicago v. McDonald gun case argument that affirmed the individual right to bear arms, and he wrote a lot of the anti-Obamacare arguments that were read before the Supreme Court. Randy Barnett would be a terrific Supreme Court pick, very libertarian, and a few more. I've actually put together for you guys the opportunity to win the presidency. You know what I've done is I've built a think tank of scholars, economists, military defense professionals. These are the people who help me form my policies. And in case I actually win, then what will happen is that I'll have a transitionary government ready to go. Has any libertarian presidential candidate in history ever had a government ready to go? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you all a chance to win. I'm going to give you all a chance to win based on a certain budgetary estimate, and I'm going to give you a chance for 5% based on a certain budgetary instrument. But I'll tell you what, even if I only got 1%, you're still making history. You know why? Because if you nominate Gary again, you're going to get the same thing that you got last time. No history's made. But if you nominate me, I'll be the youngest presidential candidate in American history, and I'll be the first millennial. That's history. Let's make it. Let's do it. We've already been losing. So let's win.
So can you paint a scenario? Hillary is nominated and doesn't get indicted. Trump is nominated. Can you paint a path to victory for the Libertarians?
If Trump is nominated too?
Yeah, it's Hillary and Trump, and the Bernie people are unhappy, and all the non-Trumpers are unhappy, and the Libertarians are...
Oh yeah, guys. Give me this. Give me the torch. I'm going to take a big wet bite out of it. I've got a strategy put together for both of these candidates to take them both on. And I think that there is a rare opportunity for us this year, because sitting Republican senators like Ben Sasse in Nebraska have stated that they will not vote for the Republican nominee if it's Donald Trump. This is unprecedented. So what we've been doing is reaching out to them. We've got a meeting with Senator Sasse, and every single Republican congressman who stated that they won't support Trump, we've been reaching out to them, calling them. There's a Never Trump movement. We're on board. We're calling these people on the phones. We're talking to them. We're conferencing with them. I know a lot of them because I work with a lot of these conservatives at FreedomWorks and many of the other institutions in D.C. that I frequented. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to build the Never Trump coalition. We'll need to get all those people. I actually put out a statement to Glenn Beck directly in a video. And I said, "Hey Glenn, if Ted Cruz loses and it's Donald Trump, what are you going to do?" And he responded back publicly on his Facebook page saying, "Austin, I'm still supporting Ted, but if Trump wins, let's talk." So I think I can rebuild those Tea Party coalitions, and they'll come back behind me because those people aren't going to support Donald Trump. And then, of course, the Bernie Sanders supporters. Oh, the Bernie Sanders supporters. They're a different beast. I think they mean well. I think that deep down they sense that they have dissatisfaction with the processes. Like a lot of Democrats, I think that they've diagnosed the problem correctly, but the prescription would kill the patient. It's always more government. But the reality is that these people actually are winnable. Somebody started a Bernie Sanders supporters for Austin Petersen page. And that's kind of exciting because I kind of been giving Bernie a hard time, but I've been going to his rallies too and talking to these kids and introducing them to libertarianism. And so what will need to happen is that it'll have to be someone who can appeal to those Bernie Sanders millennials. Those people they believe in identity politics. Libertarians, we're intellectuals. We don't care what somebody looks like, sounds like. We just care what their policies are, because we're intellectuals. But the people that we often have to debate in the public sphere, they like identity politics. I'm going to vote for them because they're a man. I'm going to vote for them because they're a woman. I'm going to vote for them because they're a minority. So Bernie Sanders supporters might perhaps say, hey, I identify with this millennial. He wants to end corporatism. He wants to end the banking cartels. You know, he's rad. He's awesome. You know, I've got so many crazy nicknames from movement nicknames. Leaf Petersen, the Freedom Ninja. You know, all these. You know, they're going to love it. The kids are going to love it. I promise. And I think the conservatives and the evangelicals and the Tea Partiers are going to like me too. They already do, because a lot of them are supporting my campaign and sending me checks and trying to do whatever they can to help me win, because if I win, I'll be the only pro-life candidate on the ballot, and that's a big deal for a lot of people. Go ahead.
So, totally off topic from your presidential campaign. We're a group of people who are grassroots activists like yourself, looking to grow immensely in the next year. Where would you start? If you were in Missouri and you were trying to build a campaign of a libertarian movement, where would you attack it?
So the question is what is the end goal, right? So building a group, that's sort of a nebulous proposal.
Sure.
But if you have structural goals, the things that you want to accomplish, then I could probably give you a more accurate answer. But speaking in general, I would just say that libertarians, we're a special interest group. There's lots of special interest groups. We are one. So whatever your goal is, whatever your tactic is, or excuse me, whatever you want to accomplish, you have to find the people. It's just like capitalism. You got to find the people who want to buy in because they're going to get something out of it. And generally, these are going to be college students, you know, that are going to be your boots on the ground. They're going to be the heavy lifters. But then you're going to need people who lick stamps and, you know, mail envelopes and do things like that. Otherwise, if you have specific goals, you want to talk to me about like strategies and stuff after this, I'm more than happy to provide you with, you know, my grassroots strategies. Otherwise, find people who will benefit, right? Find people who are being taxed disproportionately. Go to small business owners in the town. Ask them what they're paying for their corporate income taxes and their self-employment taxes. You know, find out where they're being oppressed, because every single person in the United States is now under the thumb of the feds. We all somehow. Did you know that in your shower heads? Have you ever taken your shower head out and noticed that there's a big plastic plug in your shower heads? You know the government requires that because they don't want you to use too much water. Your toilet bowls only hold 1.2 liters per flush because the government says, oh no, those deluxe things, those are only for the White House and Congress. You know, it's illegal to have toilets that go more than 1.6 liters per flush. We're all being harmed by the government. The size of my shoe leather in these boots is regulated by the federal government. So we just got to go out there and find out where people are being harmed, where people are being hurt, and say, hey, listen, we're here to solve your problems. Let's work together, because at the end of this, the outcome is lower taxes for you and your business, or less regulations, so that, you know, we got to stop throwing little Girl Scouts and, you know, giving them fines for selling lemonade in their front yards. There's a lot of ticked off moms. You know, go get them. Find them. They'll help you out. I promise you they will. Actually, our demographics, we're looking at for my donors, mostly single moms. It's something like 48% of like my donors are single moms. That's because they want to see a future for their kids, and yeah, and so they're find those people who have the special interest, and their special interest is liberty, and they'll work for you because they're fighting for their own freedoms. Yes, sir.
How do you get out of foreign entanglements, and specifically the Middle East?
Piece by piece.
Is that a pun?
Yeah, that right. That is a bit of irony. So depending on whichever conflict it is, in South Korea, I think is formidable enough to protect themselves from North Korea. Kim Jong-un is absolutely a threat to the United States because his intercontinental ballistic missiles could theoretically hit Alaska or California. That's a real threat to Americans. But in terms of guarding the DMZ, I don't think that's necessary. We could probably start there. Japan, Okinawa, you know, the old World War II alliances. NATO is a treaty. So again, these are going to require congressional actions. The president just cannot act unilaterally to bring the troops home. This requires more than one branch of government. But if I'm elected president of the United States, then we can go through piecemeal and find out where foreign aid is not benefiting the United States. I don't believe we should be sending anyone foreign aid at all, but if I had to compromise, I would say start with the countries where public opinion polls say they hate us and they burn our flags. It's really easy. If 76% of the population hates us, stop sending them $3 billion a year. You know, how many tanks and F-16s do we send to Egypt? Ridiculous. You know, Egypt is only going to use those weapons against Israel if they ever attack them. So we've got to stop arming our enemies so that they use our arms against us and our allies. Stop arming them is a good start, wouldn't you say? Stop arming our enemies? You know, that would be a good start. Piecemeal, bit by bit. Anybody else?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
How about immigration? What's your stance?
America's an immigrant nation. My last name is Petersen, spelled S-E-N. So I'm Danish. And one of the greatest moments in my life was standing with my father. We're very proud, Petersen, proud Danish people. Was standing at Ellis Island and seeing how my family came over here. And they had a security check, a disease check, and they were done. And it was easy. We need to incentivize legal immigration by making it easier to immigrate. We incentivize illegal immigration because we make it so difficult. We need a simple path to naturalization. We don't need to be doing what Donald Trump says and deport 3 million people. You need an authoritarian government to do something like that. I don't want to build, I say I don't want to build a wall. I do want to build a wall. I want to build a wall around Donald Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it. That's I'm not afraid. You know how I've been able to convince conservatives on this issue? Because the conservatives are like, you gotta stop them Mexicans. And I'm like, well, what about the Canadians? And they're like, oh, they're all right, you know.
I like that.
They like that poutine. I've been very successful in converting conservatives to a free market to immigration, libertarian immigration proposals by saying, well, you know, a free market in labor is just as effective as a free market in commodities. And they go, if they even know what commodities means, they go, oh, well, what do you mean by that? You know, then I explain to them how the government really doesn't have business getting involved between an employer and an employee whatsoever. So what business do they have telling people that they cannot come across? If your family was starving to death and you're in a third world country and right over there is freedom, are you going to go? Yep. Yeah, you're going to go. But if we incentivize legal immigration for these people and make it simple, work visas, student visas, make it simple, incentivize people to obey the law. That's what we need to do. The president has to obey the Constitution. I'm not afraid of the word open borders because I've spent a lot of time in the radical think tanks of DC with the hardcore libertarian types like Edward Catus Institute. And I think we technically have open borders right now, but we've always had open borders. You know, one of the reasons, actually this is a funny story, one of the reasons written in the Declaration of Independence for what compelled the colonists to separate from England was that the king restricted the colonists from settling the West. Do you think that if King George had started to build a wall, that Americans would have been like, kicked it over, climbed it, and went out west? Of course they would. Humans expand. Human life expands, and it grows. And as long as it doesn't inflict harm on other people's private property, I don't see any problem with allowing people to come in. Let's try and incentivize legal immigration so that we can have some semblance of sanity in our immigration profile. Yeah. Ooh, these are good questions. When are you going to give me some tough ones? Come on, guys.
I have to call my dad.
I'm still on immigration. Have you thought about just selling green cards, either flat rate, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 is good for the rest of your life, or you could auction them off so that we owe, whatever, $3 million a year, $4 million a year to the highest bidders?
I mean, that doesn't scare me. Liberals would freak. But maybe what we do to introduce them to that kind of concept is we start with students who graduate from American universities. Because we pay to train them, let's keep them here in the United States. So what if you come here and you get an education in the United States, you can stay. That way we don't brain drain, many of our worst enemies that we've had, foreign enemies, have been trained here in American schools, and then they go and they leave, and we kick them out. So let's stop doing that. Let's let the best minds stay here, flourish here, enjoy our system of market capitalism, and then let's talk about that. It's not a bad idea. Yeah.
The Palestinian-Israeli conflict, what are your thoughts on that?
it's really none of my damn business, to be quite honest. So,
Yeah.
I believe in Israel's ability to defend themselves. So does Benjamin Netanyahu. He even said, we don't need the money. You can stop sending it. I think it's like, what, $6 billion a year? But then we send $2 or $3 billion to the Palestinians. If I had to choose, I would definitely choose Israel from my personal moral stance, because it's a positive liberal civilization. And the Palestinians chant death to America and burn our flags. Now, that doesn't make me some friends with people who happen to be, they're not objective. That's the problem, is you can't have a discussion about this because no one's objective. I try and be objective. Israel is a state, so you're going to be able to criticize Israel from some perspective just for being a state as a libertarian. But in terms of the conflict, I really don't think we ought to be taking sides. In terms of our actual government, my moral perspective is I do stand with Israel personally. And that's because I'm very much a Randian, Ayn Rand in that sense, where we should encourage those who have fled barbarism and have created a positive liberal civilization. And if you were surrounded by 27, 29 hostile states surrounding you, you'd probably be a little prickly too. So I try and look at both sides of the picture, and I try and remain unbiased as much as I can, objective. Thanks. I hope I'm not putting you guys to sleep. Sorry, go ahead.
If you looked Putin in the eye, would you see somebody you could deal with? I think that's what George said, right?
I really don't know. I know a lot about Putin, and quite frankly, a lot of the things that I've seen from him make me very ill. Former KGB, most anti-libertarian institution, one of the most anti-libertarian institutions that's ever existed. So he's a wily, tricky guy, and I would have to deal with him. I would have to deal with everyone. I'd have to deal with the mullahs of Iran. Would I want to? Probably not. But would I do it because I love my country and I want to protect us? Absolutely. I will do absolutely everything I can to keep us away from war, conflict, poverty, and any sort of maladjustment of our free market society. The Russians are not the same. They don't have the power that they used to have. Their economy is in shambles right now. The oil crisis has destroyed them. Once again, America reigns supreme. Fracking, natural gas and oil, we will be the world's superpower from now until all the lights have left our eyes. So I don't really fear Russia because they can't even get their stuff together with the ruble. China is failing. You know why? Because they had the old Keynesian fallacy. They had an infrastructure-first economy. Who will build the roads, they said in Chinese, and guess what? They couldn't build the roads, or they built so many roads nobody wanted to drive on. There are all these big, empty highways. Same with North Korea. So let the market system work. Let the United States compete against Russia. Don't raise tariffs or trade. Let's not start trade wars with them. Listen, if communism or socialism worked, it would have worked by now. If they want to go and screw up their economies and try and engage in trade wars with us, let them. The almighty dollar is resilient, and the American people are hard workers. And I think that all we have to do is live and abide by our principles. And people like Putin, they exist 2 or 3 levels beneath our power and stature in the world. So we need to negotiate from a position of strength that we have. I think that the problem right now is that we have a weak president. Bullies, I hate bullies. I really hate bullies, and I've always hated bullies, but I've learned how to beat a bully. The thing about bullies is usually they're cowards. And if you know how you watch the nature specials, the wildebeest run around, and there's the little sicklings in the back that are like, running around, and they're the people who get eaten by the lions, right? So President Obama is the little sick wildebeest. And the rest of the world, ISIS, Putin, Kim Jong-il, they see our weak commander-in-chief, and they go, oh, we're definitely going to mess with America, because Obama's going to set red lines, and he's not going to back it up. You have to project a sense of strength, personal strength. I learned this walking down the streets of New York City when I used to live in Spanish Harlem. Because the first time I used to walk down there, it was white boy, what you doing here? And I was scared, and so I would be victimized. But when I started to put my chest out, and I actually started learning martial arts, the confidence that I projected deterred predators. Humans are apex predators. Putin is one of those predators. So we have to project strength. It doesn't mean that we have to use it, but it does mean that we have to show them that we will not be bullied, we will not be muscled, and we will defend our constitutional due processes, natural rights, human rights, and we'll be a beacon for all the world to see. We'll make them jealous. It'll be toast jelly, I promise.
I
Yes.
hate to interrupt, but we have a 10 o'clock
Yeah, you do,
cutoff
and
for
I gotta leave
some
at
of
2
our
a.m. to
people.
drive to Missouri, so.
So if we could wrap this up real quick,
Yep.
and then you'll be around to talk to people.
I'll be around to chit chat for, yeah, for a little while. Hey,
Yep.
Jake, good to see you. Good luck on your run for governor, sir. Yeah, what's up? One last question.
What are your stands on mandatory vaccinations?
I'm opposed to mandatory vaccinations. That being said, I do believe in vaccinations. And remember that libertarianism does mean that it comes with responsibility. So if you do become ill, then you might be segmented from society. That might mean that you might be submitted to you might need to submit to a quarantine, because if you become ill, you don't have the right to project your negative illness on someone else. But again, we don't force the Amish to vaccinate. And so I believe that vaccinations are important. I advocate for them. But I cannot imagine any libertarian arguing that we need to have mandatory vaccinations. That's just anathema. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. And vote for me, please.
When the
Vote for me.
vaccines were developed at the same time that we improved sanitation.
Exactly.
Exactly.